Thank you all for joining us here today on our first event for Black History Month for Penn West University. Today we have Tina Turk and Dr. Adrian Dixon. They're going to present the session, A Journey of a Black Leader in Higher Education. So without further ado, I will turn this over to Dr. Dixon. And we are live on YouTube, so if you need to share this link with anybody after the event today, we will make that link available. So Dr. Dixon, it's all yours.
Thank you, Chris. And thank you everyone who are joining us today. We're incredibly excited and humbled to have Tina Turk with us today. Tina is an Erie, Pennsylvania native, and she is a graduate of the former Edinboro University. She earned her master's degree from New England College of Business, and she took a position later on in the admissions as an admissions recruiter and was then promoted to the director of admissions, which led her to her current role as president of Fortis College in Maryland. Which is focused on allied health education. I'm gonna save some of her unique story that she will be able to talk about her journey and what that has meant to her since her admission at Edinboro University to now and her pathway. Please join me in welcoming Tina Turk to the conversation today. Thank you, Tina, for joining us.
Thank you, Dr. Dixon. It is such an honor to be here today to be able to speak back at my old university. There are so many memories of the old Edinboro, now Penn West. The snow, walking in the snow every day, it was just the time of my life, some of the best memories of being in college. So enjoy it while you can, because then the real world opens up for you. But as my journey, I like to share, the real world opened up for me quite early. I graduated high school 8 months pregnant. And back then, everyone thought I was going to be a failure. College was just out of the question for me to attend. Everybody wanted me to join the military, but I was so blessed to have great parents who helped me along my journey. They allowed me to stay at Edinboro, stay on campus. I stayed in Lawrence Towers and Scranton, and they allowed me to have a college life, so I can enjoy it. Weekends, I worked at Mill Creek Mall, and then I would go home and take care of my child. Some weekends, I would say that I had to study in the library because I wanted to go to the parties. But, the thing was to focus. I had a purpose and a reason to graduate. A lot of my peers didn't make it. So I tell everyone, even now as a campus president, just completion. Don't quit, completion. Know what your purpose and your reason is, that you can do it. I tell everyone, if I did it, you can do it. I say that for education, not for losing weight, but it is so important. Education is just vital. It changed my life. Without my education, I don't know where I would be today. It was a stepping stone to my success, if that makes sense. But right after graduation from Edinboro, I took a job with Ames Department Store, which used to be like a Walmart back in the day. The only reason I took that position was to move to Washington, D.C. I did not want to stay in my hometown of Erie at the time. So they sent me to upstate New York in Binghamton, New York. And then from Binghamton, they relocated me to the Washington, D.C. area. So I was an assistant store manager at Ames Department Store. Then after the retail years, I wanted to do more administrative things. Back then, we barely had computer classes. So I had to go back to school and take computers. I'm dating myself now. You guys see how old I am now. But so I got into the Bell Atlantic Yellow Pages, which is, some people don't even know what the phone book is anymore. But the Yellow Pages was probably my first real, like I would say, career position, where I was able to work with people. And it was more along the it was more sales. What people don't realize, a full page ad in the yellow book and the phone book was like $1,000 a month for the attorneys and doctors. And so I got to work with a lot of different important people in the DC metro area. And it was a blessing. And then we also developed an alumni group here for all the people who graduated from Edinboro. So we're all still in connection. We have a great friendship here. And a lot of people doing just, everyone I graduate with, they're just doing so fabulous. They're just doing so awesome right now. And all over the United States. They're just so successful, and it's a blessing. But after the Yellow Pages, I got into higher education. I started off as an admissions representative, recruiting for schools. I am what you call at a career college. So I don't know if any of you are familiar with career colleges. But what we do is, my campus now is mainly allied health. The first school I worked at was computers and technology, electronics and computers technology. And I would recruit students into the school. And once they graduated, oh my gosh, they're working for NASA now. They have great jobs working for Pitney Bowes, a lot of great companies because of that skill. We just went up to associate degrees. They wasn't even going for a bachelor's degree at that time. But they had those options. My favorite student, he is now a doctor, and he teaches at the University of Maryland, but he started off at my school with an associate's degree, and then he transferred up. It's amazing, at that time, he didn't get accepted to any colleges. So I always share with people, don't knock a career college. That could be your foundation of where you can begin, because now he works for NASA. And he's teaches at the University of Maryland. So you never know what your journey will take you. But once I was going through admissions, then I became the director of admissions, and I was over the recruitment department. And I stayed here in the metro area. Then I lost both my parents in Erie, and I just didn't want to be in the area no more. I just wanted something new. And a headhunter happened to call me, and I transferred to the Atlanta, Georgia area. In this industry, in higher education with career schools, it has taken me to 7 different states. Financially, it is rewarding, but it's very rewarding financially, but it's also internal rewarding when you're helping others change their lives through education. And the joy for me is I'm able to give back. Because like I said earlier, education changed my life. So I'm in a position where I can give back to others and help them along their way and help them see their future through education. And then Atlanta, I worked at a couple of different schools, and then my old regional vice president called me up, said she needed me in Florida. So then I worked for a school called Kaiser University in Florida. So if you've ever been to Florida, you'll see Kaiser University everywhere. The highways are owned by Kaiser University. So it was a very good privilege. I will say, in my journey as an African-American female, though, a lot of times I was the only female at my level, as well as the only African-American. So there were a lot of challenges. Sometimes I found myself being the youngest. And it was an industry that was, you can break into it. Back then, it's been like 20 something years now. It's not like that today. I could say there are a lot more African Americans in higher education and career colleges than it was when I first started. But it taught me a lot. I faced, of course, Black History Month, there's a lot of racism I face and a lot of challenges. I always felt like we had to do better. I had to do better than the next person. I had to do better than the next person. But that made me who I am today. So now as a campus president, I decided to move back to this area to be closer to family. I have my 38-year-old from high school, and then I have a 30-year-old, and he's on Wild 'N Out. If you ever heard of that show called Wild 'N Out, he's on that show with Nick Cannon. And now I have a 13-year-old. So I don't know what happened. But at that time, I decided to move back to the Maryland area. And of course, the headhunters, recruiters, they're very, they want people with your skills in higher education. They're people who have longevity, people who have integrity, people who have values. Then you're easier to, and you never burn a bridge. That's one thing I say. Always give notices, always do your best, always look out for the next person under you. Never burn a bridge. And then you'll always be able to go someplace and have someone look out for you. In this career as campus president, it can be challenging. With career colleges, we're held by different standards. Say, for example, my accreditors now, I have to have 70% of my students placed in employment once they graduate from school. A lot of state schools are not required to those same standards. I also have to have 70% finish school. and a lot of state schools are not held to those standards. So it makes it kind of tough sometimes. But our programs are short terms. We go up to associate degrees, all the way up to dental hygienist, but we still have those same standards that we have to uphold. So it's a lot of motivating your students, encouraging your students. It's a lot of holding their hands because life gets in the way. They might have lost their job and get to school, or they might have had a baby and no one's going to help them take care of their children. But life gets in the way. So we do offer a lot of different resources to help our students so that they can complete. I like to say I know my students. I take pride in my students. I care for my students. I care for their well-beings. I want them to know me. I am what you call visible campus president. I'm in the halls. I talk to them. I communicate with them because I think it's so valuable and so important. Also, when you also have a staff of instructors and recruiters and financial aid, they all report to me. I call it my dream team. You have to build a solid team. You have to always, in leadership, show your employees that they're valuable, and they are. And I always teach my staff, teach the next person under you to take your job. A lot of people get scared to do that. But if that person, and you train them, say you're going on vacation and you're out sick, you don't have to worry because you know that person you've trained can handle the business. So that's also very important. Always train somebody else. Don't be afraid, because one day that person, you may need them. You never know. And this way you can keep moving forward. But now I'm in the Baltimore County area. I love the school I'm at now. I'm at Fortis Institute, and I just love it. I love my students. We have dental assisting, medical assisting, pharmacy tech, massage therapy, and aesthetics. So the benefit is you get to go get a massage and you get a facial. So those are some of the benefits of the school I'm at now. The campus I'm at now, we have a lot of different campuses that go up to higher level degrees. I've been here at this campus now for only 9 months. I was recruited out of Atlanta, Georgia area to come back to this area with Fortis. So it's a great company, great opportunity. When you're looking to graduate, if you're looking for a career in this type of business, contact me and I would definitely help you. Admissions is a wonderful ground to start off at, to help others, see their college, see their dreams. So please contact me if you're looking for employment in the field. I know a lot of people in a lot of different states that I can connect you with, because I would love to help others find their future as well as soon as you graduate from Penn West. But that's about it. Are there any questions or anything? I don't know my time limit. I talk fast, so.
It's okay. It's okay. I have some questions, some moderated questions for you, and then of course we'll open it up to folks who are here. When you think back to your days at Edinboro and in the PASSHE system, particularly when I think about Edinboro and its unique geographical location, like what would you say were some of the things or experiences that positioned you or poised you to be successful as a leader?
Well, Edinboro made me who I am. Everything, the classes, the instructors, they were so awesome. Granted, there were challenges of being a single parent and a mother at the time, but the unity that we had at Edinboro really helped. And with my peers and my other students, they really helped me. My major was speech communications, so it did teach me how not to be afraid to speak, how not to be afraid to speak up. I wasn't good with the biology and and those science classes, but we were able to get through because of the unity they had. The teachers were very helpful. So it was a stepping stone. The job that I got at Ames was from a career fair at Edinboro. So the first job offer I had was a place called, I think it was called Abraxas. It was in Clarion, and it was a juvenile boys home. And I did have that job offer, but I really wanted to come to the DC area. So I ended up turning down that job offer just so I can come to the DC area. Retail management wasn't my focus. I was on the radio there. I did soft jams at night, slow jams at night. So I did was FCC licensed through Edinburgh. So a lot of that helped me with my platform, just to be able to meet other people and be able to talk to other people and realize there is a world outside of where I grew up. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You share with us, when you think back to your pathway and your journey, what were some of the, or did you experience things specifically as they related to being a Black woman in the path of leadership? And can you share some of those experiences, and what were some of the strategies you used to be successful during that time, during that pathway?
Well, the downside, my very first class at Edinburgh, I was called the N-word by an instructor, by a professor. And there was another African-American in the class with me, and my eyes got big, and some others laughed, and he said, all you guys are going to do is play foosball, and you're laughing. And I didn't know what to do at the time. So I did go and try to get him terminated, but he had his tenure at the time. And that motivated me. He doesn't realize how it motivated me to do better in his class, to get an A in his class. I didn't get an A, I got a B. I should have had an A though. I deserved the A, but it let me know that, the color of your skin, sometimes everyone's not going to look at you from the outside, but you have to know on the inside who you are, and you still have to fight through those obstacles and fight through those challenges. Even being in higher education, a lot of the careers I had at Bell Atlantic Yellow Pages, in the beginning, I was the only African-American there, and I'm plus size. And I realized a lot of the higher levels look like Ken and Barbie. They were gorgeous. And I also faced racism there also. And the young lady, she apologized to me to this day, but what she was going through was personal. Stick to who you are. Be proud of who you are. Don't let no one steal your joy, or no one take you out of character, challenge your integrity. Still stay true to yourself, because all that did was better me. All it did was make me want to do better and to achieve more. So I'm that person. If you challenge me, I'm going to go better. I'm going to show you who I am. I'm more than the color of my skin. I have values. I'm a person. I'm a child of God. So I'm educated. So it's more to that than the color of my skin. And you might face a lot of adversities in your careers as you go forward. Working at Kaiser, I remember I was where FAMU was, and Florida State. And I remember receiving resumes, and some resumes I would look at the certain names and I'm like, oh, they're from FAMU or they're from Florida State. And I thought about, what difference did it make, Tina? So I quit looking at where they went to school, and I looked at their resumes, because I didn't want to be discriminative against, even for myself, say, oh, they're from FAMU, I want to hire them. No, I had to look at just the resumes. So those are things that I had to be aware of even for myself. But I always say I like a rainbow of personalities. I like a rainbow of colors, because that's what makes a team. Because you're going to meet all different people in the world. But as an African-American female, just stay true to you. When you face discrimination, when you face challenges, stay true to who you are and shine bright.
It's a great point when you talked about the challenges. What do you think is the most significant challenge or obstacles for African Americans on the path to leadership, but more specifically women in leadership?
Mm-hmm. Well, the one school I was at, I was the only female. And I never forget, we went to a conference and all the men went to a strip club. And then I'm sitting there by myself, like, oh, everybody's gone. I'm not going there, So it has been even a challenge sometimes being the only female. I always felt like I have to do better. I have to do better than what they're doing. I remember that we had we were at a cookout event, and they were throwing the water balloons, and I was like, I'm not going to throw the water balloon, because if I hit someone, they're going to say, oh, did you see the Black girl hit them with the water balloon? It wouldn't be, did you see Tina hit them with the water balloon? So there are certain things that I was more cautious of and more aware of, because I know who I am. And others may not know who you are. They may not understand who you are. It's better now than what it was. Like, my hair is straight, but now I will wear it curly. I will wear braids. When I first started my career, I would only do straight hair because of the concerns of how people would judge me being a Black female, being African American. But today, I'm going to rock whatever I choose to rock. I might have a different hairdo next week. I might have a different hairdo tomorrow, because I embrace who I am and I embrace my culture. And I want people to judge me for my work, my hard work, my integrity, my values, but still be mindful of your surroundings.
Great segue to my next question. You kind of touched on it, was, what are some of the things that limit African American leaders from showing up in embracing their full authentic self, whether it's hairstyles or comments being given. And I was reading an article recently that talked about how for some that may reinforce the sense of an imposter syndrome, in terms of often being questioning competence and competency in their performance, and also how that plays into aesthetically how they present themselves, and feeling like they have to have this kind of polarized sense of self. And what's some of your experiences, and what are some of the additional recommendations or suggestions you would give to young people on this path to leadership?
Like I said, know your audience, know your surroundings. I researched one company I was going to go work for, and I realized, it's not my audience. They don't know me. So I did feel like sometimes back in the years ago that I had to be one way at work, and then when I go home, I can be myself. So at work, I had to be very strategic, very polished, very straight and narrow all the time. And then at home, I could go and just let go and be myself. And that was a challenge back in the day, until I loved me more. I said, you know what? There's going to be companies that may not like me for the color of my skin, but they can never say I wasn't a hard worker. Going into the industry and going into your professional careers, be mindful of where you're going, be mindful of who you're interviewing with, study, look the people up on LinkedIn, know the right questions to ask, so they're not looking at the color of your skin. Know who you're speaking with. Be prepared. Now, I will admit, once I worked that, I found out I was the lowest paid, and I had more experience over some of the other presidents. That was a tough pill to swallow, and there was an accident that I found out. And that was a very tough pill to swallow. And I was going to file a lawsuit because it was very discriminating. And it was a challenge. That's one that I ended up leaving the company because I just couldn't fathom it anymore. Like, wow, how is this happening? Especially when your outcomes are better than the next person's. So going forward, always negotiate, don't settle. I hire people now and they don't negotiate even for their salaries. And I always say, why didn't they negotiate? Negotiate, don't settle, because African American females are one of the lowest paid. So negotiate, ask for more money. Know the value, study and see what the job's paying you. So you don't go in and don't be so, how's the word for excited just to get the position. And then you realize you're the lowest paid and you didn't negotiate your salary. I did negotiate my salary then, and I still end up being the lowest paid. But my fault was I should have did more research. I should have found out what were their parameters of their pay instead of saying, well, I would take this or I would take that, or they're going to offer me this, or I gave a salary and they came a little bit lower and we met halfway. Well, I should have probably said, well, what's your range? You know, and then say, I should have kept coming back saying, well, this is what I need. Because if they really wanted me, they would have met me at that salary range instead of me settling. So just remember that, but you don't want to put yourself out of the range either. You don't want to go way overboard. So do your research. Do your research.
Thank you. You're hitting on another area that I really was burning in the back of my head around mentoring and developing and supporting. And when you were in school, thinking back now and reflecting where you are now and back on your own early experiences and in school and college, what would you have liked others to have done? How could others have mentored or supported you so that you would have been better prepared moving forward in your career path? Was there something that you would have wanted more when we're thinking about, you know, some folks may be working with students, whether it's faculty members or staff members who work with students in programs or in different capacities across the campus. What is it that we could be doing that would support them and better prepare them to be successful?
One thing I would say would be career coaching, career development. Like I said, my degree was in speech communications, but I really didn't know. My mom asked me, what are you going to do? I'm like, I don't know, whatever I get a job in, because I was clueless about the career path that could lead me to. Okay. At career colleges, you can know exactly what you're going to be when you're finished. But a lot of schools, you don't really know. You're getting a degree in business. Well, what are you going to be? What are you going to do? What's your desire? What interns or externships are available for you while you're in school? Like we do externs here, and majority of our students get hired from the extern. In college, we quite didn't have a lot of externships or internships back then. I don't know about today, but back then. Also, what I share with people now, and a lot of my younger students are in college, look at the job description that you think you want to become or that you want to do, then go backwards. Look at the requirements. I have shared with some of my little cousins, okay, you went straight from college, you got your bachelor's, you got your master's, but then there's still people you're working with who just have a bachelor's, they're making way more money than you. You have to get that job experience as well as a degree. So try to get as much experience working while you're in school, even if it's during the summer, doing a mentorship or doing something toward your career that you want to do. Edinboro was great with a career day back then, but I still did not have a direction of where I wanted to be. I ended up in higher education by chance. It wasn't when I was in school, I want to grow up and be in higher education. I thought I was going to be on the TV or on the radio, but that's not the direction that my education took me. Granted, I was on the radio, but I didn't realize the money I was going to be making, the hours I was going to be making. I couldn't do that as a parent already. So I probably would have chose something different. You know, I'm grateful for what I have, don't get me wrong, but just knowing that your major is going to give you the outcome that you want to have, and do some research on that. Look at the job description, see what it requires. Check with your counselors there to make sure that they can help you if there's any direction that you can go to put you on your exact career path that you want to be. Because there's a lot of college grads that just aren't working, or they're working at Starbucks. But in college, if there was someone who said, okay, you want this job, this is how we're going to do it. Look and see if there's any alumni. Like LinkedIn is a powerful tool to use. Look and see if there's any alumni there that you can reach out to in the field of choice that you want to be in, and communicate with them, talk to them. Communication is so key.
Thank you. You know, what would you say to those of us who are faculty or staff members employees across the institution of 3 campuses we have a desire to do more and to work in a leadership capacity? Or what would you say to us to encourage us if we say, I don't want to have anything to do with that, that's not on my agenda? But what would you encourage us in terms of, you know, why we might go into a leadership role, and what are some of the things we need to be prepared for specifically to educational settings or from higher ed institutions?
Okay. Well, faculty, I admire them to the utmost. That is the hardest position to have. Sometimes I think it's harder than my job because you have to keep the students focused. You have to get into their minds to help them learn, be sponges. But from a peer-to-peer, I always say, I was told by one of my mentors, Reggie Morton, act the part you want to become. He also used to tell me, dress the part you want to become. When I was in admissions as a recruiter, I was the #1 recruiter in the company, but yet I got passed over for a promotion. And he says, it'd be amazing if you worked for it. And I'm like, what do you mean work for it? I'm #1. But I wasn't working for it. It came natural to me. So, and I didn't reach out to my supervisor to learn, can I help you with a report? He showed me how to do this report. And I didn't ask the president at the time, what's it like being the president? Can you show me things that you do on a day-to-day basis? And when I caught it and when I understood it, that's what I did. I tell my staff members here, I always look at their resumes and I ask them, what's your direction? Where do you want to go? What do you want to be? What do you want to do? And it also helps me know how long I'm going to have that employee. Okay, that's been 2 years. They're probably ready to move up or to go someplace else. I empower them for growth and opportunity. Even Amazon empowers their employees. They offer them to take a medical assistant class, their staff, because they don't want them to stay in the warehouse forever. And they offer them free education. So even from, people with higher level education already, dream big, think big. I didn't realize I wanted to be a president until I had my daughter. I was happy being a director of admissions. Financially, I was happy. I knew the job. I was coasting, but I wasn't going anywhere. I was going to still get ran over because I was moving, but not moving fast enough. And I realized I need to be more challenged. There's another level out there. And so I took the good and I took the bad from others. And I realized what I didn't want to do, and I knew what I wanted to do and things I wanted to excel in. But if you want to grow and you want to go higher than what you are, be a mentor. Even if you're already working in the field, you could still go ask the next level up. Can you mentor me? Or can you help me? Or can you show me tell me about your job more, or what your career. I always say career, or I say job, but job to me is just overbroken, JOB. Look at your career and see what areas and steps that you need to get there. It's great to have someone you can ask and talk to at a higher level, and it still sharpens you. You don't want to be the smartest one in your bunch. Sometimes I found like I'm the smartest one in my bunch, I think. And that's not good. So I had to open up. Don't be afraid to reach out and learn from more people and open up. It doesn't matter. Even at this position now, I look at my regional and I listen to him and things he teaches me. I still want to learn, but then I also listen to my employees because I can learn from them as well.
You've mentioned a couple of times that, being the only one, being the only woman, being the only African American, what do you think has limited or African American women, or in particular, being in leadership roles? What are some of the barriers, particularly in the education system?
A lot of times I found like some of my friends in certain areas, they don't realize their growth and their ability. They don't realize their power. So they settle. My thing is, don't settle. Don't be afraid to go for that higher level position. Whether you get it or not, you tried. But also network with people It's not always what you know, sometimes it's who you know. So network with people. The industry I'm in, they say it's large, but it's small. So I can name 3 people who are already here that I've worked with in the past. So at a lower level. So it's about networking, and don't be afraid. Um, like I said, don't be afraid to ask for the salary. Know your audience, know who you're interviewing with, study it, get into that career first, be you, but know the path that you're going to go. It is hard sometimes being the only one. I won't say that I'm not the only one now, but when I look up, I don't see me all the time, even when I look up now. So, and that could be a challenge, but I'm at the point now where I'm the highest I want to go. I'm counting down now. 5 more years, I want to less than 5 years, I want to retire. So I don't want to advance anymore. But I would tell anyone who wants to advance, surround yourself by the right people. Don't be afraid to go out of your culture and surrounding yourself by the different people. Get to know all kind of people. Don't just get stuck in your small area, but open up.
You talked a lot about being open and being accessible to others, but also being willing to learn and glean from them. A little while ago, you were also talking about the balance of showing up as your authentic self. How do you show up in those ways, but also look at advocating without alienating others? Because I think sometimes what's some golden nuggets you can give to folks in that leadership pathway about how you're able to advocate those needs, be present and authentic, but also not alienate others?
Mhm. That's a good question. It's weird because I'm older now. So back in the day, that answer would have been different than today. Today, it's more acceptable than what it was back in the day. Again, you don't want to alienate others. You just stay true to yourself. I guess I can't get past that part there. Just stay true to yourself. Because I wear my hair different ways, I will say, like, I'll be on a conference call and someone will say, "Oh, your hair is different again. How'd you do that?" And I'm like, because they don't know me. They don't know my culture. I can do that. So, but still, don't be afraid to do it. The thing is, keep your integrity, your values, and stay professional. Um, I used to say, someone back in the day say they called me, what was it, whitewashed. I'm like, whitewashed? What is that? Because you may speak proper or act a certain way, that doesn't make you whitewashed. That's just who you are and who you achieve to be. It doesn't matter. I am a Black woman. So stick to who you are. But if you're going into a field and you are the minority, still be professional, still hold your head up. Don't look down, don't be intimidated, don't be scared. Don't be afraid to look someone in the eye and speak with them. In my career, there's times where I was scared. I would walk into a room and it's like, ooh, I'm the only one. So I wouldn't say anything. I found myself becoming a mouse because I didn't want to say the wrong thing. I didn't want them to look at me a different way. But as I grew, I realized, no, I'm not going to be a mouse. I'm going to speak up. I have my values and how I feel are just as important as the next person. So that is the best advice I can give is be proud, hold your head up high. Don't become that mouse for anybody. Be strong. I could say, a lot of people say, oh, she's an alpha female. Yes, I am an alpha female. But sometimes when I go home, I don't want to be the alpha female. But in my career, I have to be the alpha female because this is the career I chose to be in. And if you don't like your career, you don't like what you do, leave. Go find what you want to do. Be happy in doing what you want to do. Don't let money dictate you. Don't let others dictate you of what you want to be. Because if you're happy doing what you want to be, everything else will come.
Great segue to another burning question that I wanted to ask you about. You started off by talking about you started your journey in education and your pathway being a single mom. And, how do you, as an African American single parent, how did you find time to balance your educational needs with your career desires, but also look at continuing to be resilient just in some of the challenges and barriers that you're confronted as being a single parent, but especially as being a African American single parent?
Mhm. It was very hard. It was very difficult. Um, my biggest lesson I learned was surround yourself with the village. Um, I got to know my neighbors very well because there's days where I would need their help. So, and I wasn't afraid to ask for help. Um, there's times I bring my child to school with me to work with me, and I'd be like hiding them because I didn't have a babysitter. I could tell you some stories, but it was hard. Um, One of the lessons I learned, it was so funny. I was about to rent out my house in Georgia, and my sons were there helping me paint and get things ready. And my son brought his dirty clothes, and I said, "Oh, I don't have no detergent here." And he looked at his brother. He said, "Hand me the dish liquid." And I said, "You're not gonna put no dish liquid in my washing machine." And he said, "Mom, you act like we never did that before." I said, "You never did that before. You never wash clothes with dish liquid. Are you crazy?" And they started laughing. And I was like, "What's so funny?" They said, "Mom, when you would be at work, you come home and you're tired and you be work long hours and we didn't have anything to wash our clothes with, we would use dish liquid. And we didn't want to bother you." Or you would say, "We knew you didn't have the money." That broke my heart. I was like, wow. So it's important to have life balances. My first is my faith in God. Second is my family, then work. And it's difficult to do that order because when you're trying to climb the ladder and you're trying to be getting upper management, some managers look like if you're not here 50 hours a week, you're not doing a good job. It was a challenge because I was working 50 hours a week. I was there weekends. I was there. In the meantime, my children suffered. So now as a single parent again, heaven forgive me. But as a single parent now with a 13-year-old, I I balance as best I can. There's days where I'm like, today is I'm cutting off at 5:30. And I'm at that point when I go home, I check work at work. And when I come to work, I check home at home. And there's days, yes, it doesn't always work that way. There might be a call or something because we have students in class till late at night. That I'm here late at night till 10 o'clock or 8 o'clock. But I communicate with my daughter. I did get to the point where I had a nanny to help me back in the day. Everybody might not have that. Care.com helped me a lot. But I also surrounded myself with others to help me. Raising sons was not easy. They're both successful now. Um, and being the first one in your family to go to college. My oldest son has 2 degrees. My middle son, he's a celebrity barber and on Wild 'N Out. But just they looked at me as a hard worker. They looked up to me as mom was a go-getter. So that's the benefit of it. But there's days I wish I had more time with them. But I can say my children, we were never evicted. I tell them, you guys know we never had food stamps, but we might ate Salisbury steak meals because those were my personal values that I wanted. And like I said, it's hard when you start off, but you have to balance it. Even from learning about credit and balancing your credit, being a single parent, it was difficult, but show love to your children. Let your career be important because that's going to pay the bills. But balance life, work-life balance. And when you're home, focus on home. And it's so difficult sometimes to cut it off, but you have to because your children and your family are important.
Thank you. I promise this is my last question. for
That's
you.
okay. I'm
Open
enjoying
it up
this.
to see if others have questions for you or want to engage you. But, you talked about, climbing the ladder and climbing, or being able to move into places of advancement and success, particularly in the academic and higher education. And when I was reading an article not long ago that talked about climbing the glass cliffs, if you would. And one of the things they were talking about is oftentimes minorities and women are given more risky roles or precarious roles. Did you find that in your pathway, that you were given maybe tasks that others or not, or that the tasks seem to be more challenging or more risky than your other counterparts, whether your male counterparts or outside of from different racial groups?
Mhm. Well, for my journey, I found that I would come into a school that had a lot of challenges and issues over someone who may went to a school that was running smooth. Um, but I don't know if I relate that to who I am, but I relate that to my success, my path of success. Um, there are times where I remember even working in retail right out of school. I remember an irate customer at the front desk, and I go up front to help them. They ask for the manager, and I go up front and they see it's me, and they say, "Never mind." Things like that, that you faced back in the day. But you have to overcome that. You just, like I say again, stick to who you are, overcome those obstacles, because you may still today, you still may not get treated fair. Um, there's a conference I'm supposed to be going to in Vegas coming up, and I asked my regional. I said, "Do I have to go? Can I send my dean?" And he says, "Oh, it's okay. I just say you don't have daycare." I have daycare. I don't have no problem. I have someone to keep my daughter. Don't say that. It's okay. And I felt like as a Black female, don't say that as a single parent. Don't say that, because I don't want them to judge me for that or to hold me back in case there's something major they want me to go do. I said, don't say that. I said, but it is her birthday. That's the reason I don't want to go, because, just moving here to Maryland, she doesn't have a big, a lot of friends here yet. And I didn't want to leave her for her birthday. She didn't want to go to Vegas. But things like that, like you come find out being a single parent. There are things that people, they still look at you differently sometimes as a single parent, especially when you're a young single parent. Even managers will hire you. When you're interview, I would definitely not talk about me being a single parent, because they will say, oh no, she's going to be leaving for doctor's appointments. She's going to be leaving if her child is sick. And those are realities. So there's things like when I would interview, I wouldn't mention children. I remember one time I wore a wedding band and I wasn't married, just because I didn't want them to judge me, because I knew I wanted that position, things I did. But today, as I grew and I'm older and I'm wiser, it's just all about my work ethic. And you like it, you don't, you don't. What's for me, I got turned down a few times for president positions. And I always say, what's for me, it's going to be for me. God has it for me. Can't nobody take it from me. It's going to be for me. If it's not for me, then I'm not going to get it. Nobody's going to block that. What's for me. No matter what I look like, no matter what my hair is, what's going to be is going to be for me. Now, I can probably mess some things up and mess up my own bed, but that's going to be my fault. But if I do things the right way, with value and integrity, it's going to be for me. If it wasn't for me, then I can't cry about it. I just got to keep it moving, keep it moving. And I look at it like, that's your loss. Yeah.
I have to say, Tina, when you were talking about, some of the assignments or taking on a school that may have had significant challenges, it reminded me of the article that I read that sometimes African American women in particular, they're given it, and others might have seen it as a negative connotation, but they saw it as an opportunity and a challenge to demonstrate those skill sets that they could move the needle more than maybe with their other counterparts or their others who have been there previously. So I appreciate your comment there. I'm going to open it up to, because I didn't realize what the time is. It's now 3:48. So
Oh,
are
wow.
there folks who have questions? You can put them in the chat, and I'll certainly be willing to share that. Or I believe the folks who are on Zoom can actually unmute and be able to ask your questions.
I'll go if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much for sharing. Appreciate you. I am the director of athletics at Edinboro, and just wondering, you know the area, you know the community. How can we better support diverse coaches to help retain them here at Edinboro?
Respect them for who they are and understand who they are. A lot of people don't take the time to understand our culture. Like, for example, if I wear curly hair, I don't want it to be known, oh my God, what's wrong with your hair? Know me for me. It's challenging today, even keeping valuable employees now. It's different than what it used to be, because an employee today will just quit. They don't care, you know. But just understand who they are, meet them at who they are, and treat everybody equal and treat them the same. Even with the students at Edinboro, make sure you do have an area for their culture. Like, we had the Minority Students United, and we would all meet, and we were able to talk about things and make a change. And then we had a mentor who we could take it to, and they would listen to us, not just, we didn't want to be just complaining. We wanted someone who was going to listen to us and then tell us what the next steps are. So it's about that communication and talking to them.
Thank you. Can you maybe expand a little further? Oftentimes, diverse coaches have said that they feel comfortable, accepted, supported on campus, but that they don't feel like they fit in the community, in the larger community.
Mm-hmm. So are you speaking of, say, for example, a white coach with a majority Black players?
No, I mean, like a Black coach and their family who moved to Edinboro.
Okay.
Coach, and they have, sometimes expressed that the Edinboro community, that they feel included on the Edinboro campus, but sometimes their families don't feel so included in the Edinboro community, if that makes sense. And I know like it is, unfortunately.
Coming from Erie to Edinboro, I know that's not a place I would have chose to live, because at the time, like I said, I don't know now, it was not culturally diverse. So as an African American female, I have lived, when I was in Florida, I lived in neighborhoods where I was the only one like me, and my daughter was the only one like her, and that it was a challenge, because I find now my daughter, sometimes she can't relate to her own culture, because our culture, everybody has different cultures. So it is a challenge, even in the community, where to draw in more diversity, they have to offer more things of diversity, like having a taco stand here. Like in my neighborhood now, there's a lot of taco stands because we have a very diverse neighborhood. There's a lot of different cultural foods, having different things that someone from that culture will enjoy, something that culture will like, so that they will feel a little bit of home. Even our African culture here, we have African restaurants. There's Jamaican culture, there's Jamaican restaurants. That's why I love this area, because of the diverse cultures, everyone can relate and can feel like home, a little bit of home in the area. At Edinboro, I don't think, back when I was at Edinboro, there was no like soul food restaurants for us to go to. I mean, we used to go to Perkins. I think it was Perkins Pancakes. I love Perkins Pancakes, or the pizza place. And then you wouldn't see a lot of the African Americans working in those areas outside of campus. I went all the way to the Mill Creek Mall to find a job, but I would rather have a job in Edinboro. but they just weren't hiring in Edinburgh. It's
Gotcha.
still sometimes like that, but just having something more cultural for them, even having a cultural Black History Month. Is the county having a Black History program? Or are they inviting others to come there, opening it up for the for the opportunity?
Thank you.
Dr. Robbins, I just want to add to that. I do think not only the faculty member and coaches, I've heard it from students too, something as simple as, where do I get my hair done? Where do I, check in and be able to even get products or things that are aligned to me, not just even community pieces, but I think the more that we can maybe touch base with those surrounding communities, so maybe it's the community in Erie even, and trying to create more connections for folks who come to the university and being able to connect them to, between Erie and Meadville, that they might have a larger community, particularly around cultural dynamics and events.
And also, I was going to say also maybe building a relationship with the Community Chamber of Commerce. Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's so true, because there was not a Black barbershop in Edinburgh when I was there, or a beauty shop. We would go to Erie. I would take my friends, because I was from Erie, friends from other states. They would come to Erie with me to go to have more of a culture, like, food and things like that. Well, my mom and auntie would come out to the campus and cook. Oh my gosh, it was amazing. Every Black person, African-American person, would be my friend that day because they could get some, different type of food. And we also, my church in Erie would come and have a church van that would come and take us to church all the way in Erie, because there was not even a Black church in Edinburgh for us to go worship at. So even if you have like Black ministers come or something where you can be relatable to who they are.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Well, Tina, thank you so much, first for being with us, taking time out of your busy schedule to share. We are ecstatic that you are an EU grad and a mom, and that you were willing to, share your story and your journey, give us some golden nuggets about how to navigate some of the challenges, but encourage and inspire other young people that, this path, even though there may be challenges and obstacles, that, nothing can prevent you. You are a testimony of that some of the greatest challenges that we see, just in terms of, the greatest gifts of raising children and all these things and leaving home, but look at your pathway to success and opportunity. So, even though we may experience adversity or challenges, there's always opportunities, and there's always the ability to turn those things into our greatest strength. So thank you so much for that. Thank you everyone who joined us today and participated in this session. Again, I'm so excited that you were able to share with us, and I'm inspired by your story. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It was an honor. I love my Edinburgh, Penn West. So I love it. So yeah. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm always hiring, so.
We like to hear that too.
Yes, we do.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening. And again, thanks for sharing.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.